Bonjour à toutes et à tous. It's my pleasure to introduce Susan Woolgar, our invited artist this evening. She's joining us from Red Deer, Alberta, where she is a practicing visual artist, and she's also offers a number of courses through institutions on Zoom. So I found her a number of years ago on social media and loved her work and waited for a workshop and finally got one online. And I really enjoyed it and learned a lot and thought, it would be something of interest to Arteast members. So, she'll do a demo this evening, but I really appreciated how she has an approach to abstracting the landscape that starts, with line, with big shapes, and then leveraging mixed media. And so, I hope you enjoy it and find it as educational as I did. And you can certainly, see her work on Instagram and on her website. So without further ado, I would like to join you all in welcoming Susan to Arteast this evening.
Hi, everyone. Very glad to be here. This is so lovely. I love Zoom for this particular aspect. I can meet and work with so many people all over the world. I used to do just a lot of teaching in rural Alberta, and well, same people coming out to classes to, have a good visit with their buddies, and it was a different world. So I'm grateful for this. I'm really grateful. So welcome. You're sitting in my little teaching studio, which is one of the spare bedrooms upstairs. It's not very big, but it's upstairs, not downstairs where I have a bigger studio, because there's where up there on that little shelf, that's where my router is. So I have really good connection because I'm right in the room with it. So I've never had a problem with my internet at all. It works really well. How I do this is I will talk to you from this side of the pad. And have you highlighted or pinned me at all?
I can do so.
Yeah, can you pin me?
There you are.
Okay, now I'm pinned. Okay, didn't pin me on me, but that's okay. As long as I'm pinned for everybody else, I'm the big cheese here. Okay, so this is my studio. On this side, I talk to you. I will very shortly do a little slideshow that I'll share. And then after I finish doing that, answering any questions, I'm going to turn you around, and then you're going to be at my workspace, where I have put up a piece of paper, an image, and I do all my color mixing on a vertical surface. So you can watch me color mix, understand the process that I use for color mixing. But before we get to that, I think I'm just going to take you through just a little slideshow here, just to introduce myself for some of my work. Some of this it's going back probably, how would I say, 10 years, 12 years. So it's a little bit of everything. It's a little bit of my mixed media. It's a little bit of my acrylic. It's a little bit of my watercolor. My pastel. So I'll just give you an idea of some of the things where I wander, so to speak. So I'm just going to take you through just different aspects of what I'm doing. Okay. Oh, I don't know where to go. So many. What do I choose? Oh. All right. I think that'll do her. Okay. Add. Okay. So starting out in my little sketchbook, I like to explore different places. I have a tendency to be very attracted to foregrounds. very intimate spaces. I don't do a lot of the big picture kind of painting. I have usually a small sky area in a painting, and it'll be just all about textures and forms that are in the front. So this is just a little stream where we were camping one day. It's in my sketchbook. It's done with a little bit of gouache, acrylic, and a bit of chalk. I usually use that combination when I'm working. Oh, I don't know why you got oh, that's weird. Okay, well, ignore that stuff at the top and at the bottom. I don't know why that's there. That shouldn't be there. Okay, this is one of my pieces where I am reconstructing a painting. So I'll work in my sketchbook, or I'll just work on a large sheet of paper. I rip it up and I reconstitute it. I call them reconstituted paintings. It's a practice that I've started and I continue in my sketchbook for the most part. And it's about coming up with different aspects of the composition. Rather than becoming too descriptive or prescriptive, I allow the putting it back together to be part of the situation. Okay, well, I don't know why this is doing this. Anyway, here is another one. Hopefully I'll get through these before it's too long. This one's an example again of just tree forms. I like to be very aggressive and I love mark making. So quite often my work, or all the time, my work starts with a lot of just mark making. I follow that up with I add transparent acrylics on top of it. Then I'll go back with opaques and I'll build the surface. So most of my paintings constitute at least 3 or 4 layers. Okay, there, we're off that now. So here is, again, a collage where I've started with a larger painting, then I've reassembled it. So I've changed the format. I have added bits and pieces from the original painting and reconfigured it. Okay. Again, same thing. As you can see, I do like tree forms. These are tree forms from southern Alberta, and the prevailing winds down there off the foothills that start blowing across the prairies have shaped all these trees, so they all bend to the wind. Great to paint. Here's an example of Down by the River. Again, it's one of my paper pieces, so I'm just showing you paper right now. And just for context, there's the original image. This is Down by the River, the Crow's Nest River down in southern Alberta. And there's what I ended up with. So just so you can get an idea of kind of how I look at the landscape. I do practice these a lot. I teach these in my classes, and I really like to do these as part of just a daily practice. It is the equivalent of doing scales. If you were to equate it to music, these are scales. So I have people do these all the time, and they're all based on 2 complementary colors. So these are based on burnt sienna and phthalo blue. The top 2 are dominant brown or burnt sienna. The bottom 2 are dominant blue. The one on the right, the top, is dominantly high key or quite light. The one on the left is dominantly dark or low key on the left. Consecutively at the bottom, the one on the left is a high key blue, and the one on the right is a low key blue. As you can see, it's a compilation of mark making with different kinds of tools, chalk, oil pastel, watercolor, wax crayons, Posca markers sometimes, compressed charcoal. I just use all kinds of different tools to draw. And these are not done with any kind of oh God, what's the word? Subject matter. These are just shapes. I've just done these out of my head. So this is something that I like to practice with students so that they develop a sense of what is high key, what is low key. I'm applying the paint with all kinds of different tools. I use brushes, I use palette knives. I love my painting wedge by Catalyst, just a good old-fashioned painting wedge. So I'm constantly changing up my tools. I even use things to spatter paint. I have stubby little brushes that I spatter with. And on occasion, I have tools to stamp in textures into the surfaces. These don't really have that. This is mainly just straight up painting. Okay, so this is sort of an underpainting situation of a landscape. This is how my pastels start out, is I do a very loose acrylic image. You can see in here, there is underneath this, there's a bunch of marks, and I've gone in with very thin paint for the most part, put a layer on top, and then I come back. Oh, I didn't get the other one. Oh, darn it. Sorry. I don't know where it went. Maybe it'll show up. Um, Here we have, this is just a little, very little painting, just a quick little sketch. I have certain places, like this is this image here. I have certain images that I've painted a half a dozen times. I just really like the feeling of the image. I like the atmosphere, and I'll approach it over and over again in different scenarios. I've done this in pastel, I've done this in acrylic, I've done this more realistically, I've done this looser. So this is an example. So here, this is laid on with brushes. I've used my squeegee to move the paint around in areas. I do a lot of scratching back. I like to push back into the paint. So I'm very fond of a subtractive process in painting. Rather than always adding to the surface, I like to reduce the surface. Okay, this is just in my sketchbook. This is a little tiny piece. This blown up is much bigger than it really is. This is gouache and chalk. So when I travel, I like to use gouache. It's so easy, it's handy. It comes in those little tiny tubes. It's fun to play with. So this is just, it's a rock, but it's a very colorful rock, and I like it. Oh, there's it. There it is. It popped up. See, it just got out of order. So this is what the painting looked like when I was finished. And what I've put on top of it, it started out with the acrylic underpainting, and then I've gone back in with pastel and finished it. So there's actually a lot of the painting, the acrylic painting showing. I could not show this in a pastel show because it's not heavy enough coverage on the paper to actually qualify it as a pastel. I'd have to go back and put more in. But since I have no intention of doing that, I like it as it is. Now, these are just these are very large canvases. This is a winterscape of willow and snow. And I've very obviously abstracted it so that the willow is basically turned into some patches of varying shades of orange. The snow is very active, lots of movement. Do I use clear gesso over your acrylic? Yes, I do. So if I'm building a surface to add drawing tools to, I will put the clear gesso over the acrylic so that there's a nice surface for things to adhere to. If I'm not doing that, like in this particular case, this was a very large canvas and I wasn't putting any movable mark making on top, then I'll just finish it with a satin varnish. I really like satin varnish. It's not shiny, it's not flat, it's just very soft. So I'll finish these big ones with satin varnish. Okay. I'm not usually a sky painter. This is an exception to that. And believe me, it was not anywhere near this colorful. It was a little lake as I was passing through Saskatchewan on my way to Winnipeg. And I don't know, I was very drawn to the atmosphere of this image and the feeling, the calmness. So I just decided I'd make an effort at it. So the sky's a lot more aggressive than it was in the photograph, and it certainly was very cool. And here I've added quite a bit of warm. But what I want to draw attention to is the variety and directions that the marks are applied. So when I paint, what's becoming more and more apparent to me and important to me is the movement of the paint, how it is related to the subject matter and how the eye moves through. So one of the things that is very common for people painting skies is their marks are quite often very horizontal. They work across the sky rather than working vertically down. So when I'm painting, I'm always very aware what direction am I actually making the mark. I don't just throw the paint on. I have to decide what energy I want to give those particular marks to create a certain movement in the painting. Okay, this is just, he's not a very big guy. He's a little guy. Lots of work with palette knife in this one. Lots of my side of my catalyst tool, my squeegee here. But as you can see, there is a considerable amount of mark making that has been obliterated by, subsequent layers of paint. Quite often the shapes can be completely subdued and disappear depending on how much opaque paint I use. If I keep it relatively transparent, I'll get some really nice movement through the painting. Okay, this one's a very old, this is probably the oldest image in here. And I was still pretty, what's the word, shape oriented. There's not a lot of lost edges in here. It's just a nice colorful little piece. It was actually not little. This was, I think, 36 by 48 canvas. It was quite large, but it gives you an idea where I came from. So this is probably a 15-year-old painting. So this is where I started, and I have subsequently changed. This is a very large painting again. This one actually fell together extremely fast. It was nearing the end of a period that I was painting to prepare for a show. And I always find that after I've been working with a body of work, that the last few paintings kind of just roll off the old brush, that I don't really suffer with them. I don't have to think about them. They just happen really fast. But I thought it was a successful painting. This is the little creek in Kelowna, the Mission Creek, one of my favorite little walks along this creek when we stay with our friends. Okay, this one again, this was in a sketchbook. It's this one's a newer painting. You can see my surfaces are a little bit more rich. There's more texture in my surfaces. So this is an example of my abstraction now. I still pay a passing nod to things like trees at the top. I've definitely got a shoreline here and some reflections, but it's not very specific. Everything is left to the imagination per se to create whatever it is that you want to create out of this. And here's an example of a dominantly acrylic painting, but finished with just a touch of pastel here and there. So this was framed under glass. And it's just an example of how I go back into a painting and do some very random mark making. So all my mark making is more about expressive mark making, not descriptive mark making. So when I go to do a painting, it's not like I'm breaking up the areas and painting very specific shapes. It's more about just creating energy on the surface. Oh, we're back to that again. Okay, let me do this. Oh, there, we can do that. Okay, here's one of my more contemporary pieces where I've really let go of a lot of the usual markers for a landscape. It's just a field study with a distance. I like to always work with a very specific palette. When I'm designing a painting, I'll restrict my colors to one side of the wheel and add just a little bit of a dissident color or one little bit of color from the other side. So in this case, I'm working with a lot of warm tones, yellows, oranges. I've got that really bright green here, and then I've got that just that touch of turquoise in the distance. Okay, so we won't talk anymore. So that just gives you a little idea of some of my work anyway. So any questions? Is there anybody, open it up for just a second if anybody has any questions before I go on the other side? No? Okay, there's two in chat. Let me see, what does chat have to say?
You did both of them already.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay. Well, I'll talk to you about what I'm, what, how I, well, you're going to see how I apply paint. So above here, can everybody see the image at the top? I know there's a little bit of shine on it. I'm sorry, I can't do anything about that. Can you see the whole piece of paper?
No. We
Uh,
can, I
so
don't know how far down it goes, but we're slightly below your clip.
slightly below my clip. Okay. Um, Let me see, maybe, no. See there's,
Okay, all right. Now we,
so
uh,
yeah, you're basically seeing the whole thing. I've got a piece of tape on there too, so you're definitely seeing everything.
so a
Okay.
couple of questions have, okay, just one question. Are most of these paintings done on plein air or in your studio?
Most of these are done in my studio. Some
Okay.
of them are done en plein air, but I'm essentially a studio painter. I do go out, I work in my sketchbook. I work very loosely when I'm outside. I don't try to capture a particular place correctly. I'm more gathering information. And then I come back into my studio and I take that and I'll work up another painting. So, what I'm going to show you here is basically how I start just about everything, to be quite honest, whether it's um, a small image or a large image. It always starts out much like this. So over here, I have a piece of paper. Okay, this is just a piece of Canson watercolor paper. It's 140 pounds, so it's a nice weight of paper. And I've got my image up here. I'm just going to add just this here. I'm going to put another little piece of tape on the bottom. So I'm even going to push it up a little bit further because I think I could get away with that. There. Definitely now well within the limitations of what you can see here. So the first thing on the agenda when I start doing this is just making marks, getting shapes down, and I'll use a variety of different kinds of tools. So I'll use things like pastel here and there, just oil. This is just oil pastels. I'll use chalk, new pastels. These are just cheap chalks. I get these little sets of neutrals, blacks at the dollar store. They're like $3, and they're really good chalk for $3. And I'll also use my new pastels, which I have many, many sets of. So I'll use things like these guys here, those kind of chalks. I'll make marks with those kind of chalks. I'll even use my own soft chalks that I make. As far as a good little set of chalks to get going, if you've never done this before, if you've never used any kind of tool, let me just get it out here. I'll just show you. Mm. Yeah, it's not in there. How odd. Anyway, I'll show you the oil pastel set. This is Artist Loft's oil pastels. It's $7.99. Like, they don't cost hardly anything. And they also make a set of chalk pastels. Like, this is one of the little chalk pastels. Same thing, $7.99. Great little drawing tools. Love them, love them, love them. Use them all the time. Sometimes if I'll buy a set of chalks just for a specific color, I love the violet that they have in here. And I see a lot of violet in here. So my first marks are done with a piece of Conte crayon or compressed charcoal, a nice piece of compressed charcoal. And I'll do things like I'll dampen the surface down. This parts of it. And I'll go right in with my chalk. Now, the nice thing about compressed charcoal is it does melt when you and I'll use it in different ways. I'll make big, thick marks. I'll make little marks, thin marks. And once it's melted on the surface, it stays a little bit more solidly. You don't have to worry about it moving around the same way. So I'm just sort of developing some of the more major shapes, major values in my painting. And here's a little bit of this lovely violet. And it also, you can wet it down and it moves very nicely when you wet it. Also, in my repertoire, I use these a lot. These are the Artist Loft wax crayons, but I also use the Woodies. I don't know if you're familiar with Woodies by Stabilo. They're a wax crayon, but they melt also. They're water soluble, and they're really fun to make marks with.
Before you start a painting of this size, have you done this kind of small scale as a sketch or?
I've done this actually really big as a really huge painting, which unfortunately got a hole punched in it because it was a rather nice painting. But no, I haven't done this as a small scale sketch at all. I'm just going at this sort of raw.
So you don't do a value study ahead of time or anything like that?
I do value studies, and this is an important part of the painting process is a value study. So here's what my value studies look like, and I just ripped this one, but here's a little value study of a painting I just did. Okay, so this is what my value studies look like.
Oh, okay.
I'll do you a little value study of this one here. Once I just get my mark making handle, then I'll go back. Working with your oil pastels, they're really quite lovely because they're very resistant and water resistant, and you can put them on and you can work on top. So let's say I wanted to just maybe pick up a little bit of this energy that's in here. So all my paintings start out with this kind of energy, okay? Lots of mark making. Some of this will completely disappear. You won't see this, okay? You just won't see this. This will go. But, and people say, well, why do you do it then? And I'm doing it because I want the energy that these marks are insinuating on the surface. I want that energy. And some of it's going to show up after the fact. You'll see some of these lines. Some of them will disappear, and some of them will be very obvious in the work. Okay, so it always starts out with a nice kind of active drawing like this. For a value study, I just do them very little on a piece of paper like this. And all I'm worried about is where my darkest darks are going to be, where my lightest lights are going to be. I'm not worried about being super accurate. So, and I just do it with a stick of smooth paper. Okay, so there's my image area that I'm going to work with. So I'll just come in here. That's not very dark. I think it's this paper. What kind of paper is that? That's weird paper. Is this darker? Oh, there we go. Okay. So I'll just take my chalk and I'll say, okay. So here's the shape here, you know, there's that shape there. Comes down here. Now I've got dark shapes in here. Maybe just a little bit of a line here. Maybe it's sort of mid-value. So then I'll create my mid-values by just going like this. Needless to say, I never have nice hands. They're always dirty. And then when I'm done, and I've kind of decided that I've got this basically handled as far as where these darks are going to go.
Are you using charcoal right now?
Yes, I'm just using a piece of compressed charcoal, but a much darker. That one was just a gray one and it was not doing the job. So, and then I'll come back with a eraser. Good luck finding that right now. And I will pick out a few highlights. Okay. So I'll take this and I'll say, okay, well, there's a really nice bit of light right in here. We're gonna play up that shape there, and there's a bit of light here, and then there's some nice little light shapes down here. Maybe even a couple little lines, and I'm gonna have a couple of light shapes over here, and I'll just pick out my lights after the fact, so that I find my lights after with an eraser like this. It's a reductive drawing kind of process, and I've always been attracted to the reductive drawing. So I'm not drawing this all out. I'm just looking at this and saying there's a value, and maybe this value is just a little darker in here and a little less bright than that, and just picking out the dark shapes. So then I put this aside. And these don't take me very long, obviously, but for me, that's a guideline to painting this picture. And so I can move that over here. And cut this off so it doesn't get in the way. And we'll put this up here. So, and then I'll refer to my little value sketch while I'm working on the image. And at certain points during the process, I'll spend more time looking at my value sketch than I will look at the image itself, because that's got more image or more information in it that I need than the actual image. Okay. So there we go. Wow. Now let's just put those points together. Can you see those guys? Both of those, kind of?
Definitely, yeah.
Good. Okay. So I've got my drawing. Now I've got to seal this. So I'm going to take a little container. I've got it already set up here. This is just a mixture of, it just squirted on me. This is a mixture of matte medium and gel medium, matte medium and clear gesso. So it's going to have a little bit of a grit to it. And I'm just going to take a brush and I'm going to tint this. So I look at this and I ask myself, what color do I want to work on? And I think I want to work on sort of a mauvey background, because it'll really make the yellows and the oranges pop if I'm a bit on a mauvey background. So I'm just going to take my paint here and mix in just a bit of I'm just mixing in a bit of mauve here, like not too much, and a little bit of transparent red oxide, a combination of those two colors. Here we go. There, I think I have enough here for like 52 paintings. Great stuff, Susan. Okay, so here's sort of the color I'm looking at. Okay, just a really soft kind of mauve. And I'm just gonna, this brush has got a lot of transparent red oxide in it, so I'm gonna put that aside for the moment. Don't want to do that and get all that in there. Drawing out a brush here. Okay. And I get my brushes like these guys here. Buy these in a set of 3 for $1.75 from the dollar store. And they're great for this sort of thing. Okay. And then I'm going to take this and I'm going to paint this surface. So I don't want these marks to go sideways on me. If they're going to smear, I'd rather they went straight down. So I'm directionalizing how I put this on here. Okay. And I do this very gently, okay? This is with a very gentle brush. If I put a lot of pressure on some of this, I'm going to get a lot of movement, and I don't want a lot of movement. So I just use sort of the side of my brush for applying this. So this is always an issue for people. They go, well, I put it on and it just smeared everywhere. And it's like, well, you have to do it very gently and use the side of your brush if you're going to go over pastel, okay? So you can see I'm maintaining that mark making. It's not smearing all that much. Now this stuff, of course, it's just like every other medium in acrylic. It goes on and it makes things kind of cloudy, but then it's going to dry very clear, crystal clear. So here's my, I don't want this to smear down, so I'm going to go sideways on that mark because I don't want that mark to smear this way. And it is that pastel, and there is a good chance that it'd want to smear. Where I've used water with the compressed charcoal, it really doesn't move that much. You'll notice it's not moving here. If I don't have any water involved, it can move a little bit, but not badly. Okay. So now by putting this layer of violet on here, I've created a nice unity between the drawing. And they're like that. Okay. There. So everything is sealed in. This isn't going to be moving anywhere soon. It's going to stay there nice and solid for me. I'm not going to have to worry about it getting blurry or anything or causing any problems. And then I'm just going to shut my, you can talk among yourselves. I'm just shutting my microphone off while I turn on this hair dryer. So here I go.
Yes, this session is being recorded, and in the fullness of time, we'll be posting the link on the website and probably in our studio talk.
Just want to thank Denise and the other organizers who puts this together. It's quite fascinating.
It really is. I'm watercolorist, and this is so different from how I work. So it's really interesting.
It's really interesting. Her whole process is so interesting. Yeah.
It's quite different from the last presentation we had, which was very accurate
Yeah.
style. So it's fun to see a
Yeah.
different style, which is very loose.
It's actually very interesting to really try out with all that
Okay.
stuff the way, yeah.
Well, I just want to say that I started my life out as an advertising artist, communication arts, and I was very precise, very, very. I mean, I was an illustrator and a designer, so my drawing skills were off the hook. They're still very good. If I want to be very specific about how I draw, I can do that. But I grew away from that, and I actually found it difficult. This is very difficult to do, to allow yourself the freedom and the expressiveness, because there is this incredible need to control the surface. And this is what I fight with all the time, is this need to control. So I've spent the last part of my career here trying to let go of all this. And believe me, there's a lot of artists out there that were ex-advertising artists like me. You know, there's lots of them. David Sharp was an ex-advertising artist. Tony Alland. There's all kinds of pastel artists and painters that's what they did for a living. They were advertising artists. And there's a certain mark and a certain way of doing things that gets embedded in your genetics, I think. I don't know, but it's really hard to get rid of. And I've spent a long time trying to develop mark that reflects more of uh, an abstracted aesthetic than a very accurate aesthetic. So now I'm making up some darks. So now I'm going to redefine some of my dark areas. So I'm just making up a really dark sort of violety purple. And I'm going to come in here and I'm going to just come in and just redefine. And now I can do a little bit more just looking over here at this. So now this is a very, believe it or not, this is quite a transparent color. If I was to take a little bit of this medium that I made up earlier and put it down here, and then took my painting wedge, my catalyst, and used this, I can spread this around. I can move this paint around like this and create other areas of value just by using my catalyst. So just so if I want it just thinned out, I'm just coming in here, I'm putting a little bit of value right in here. I'm looking at this saying, okay, well, there's that dark shape there, but I want to still see some of that mark making. So I'm just leaving that there. Now you look at this and you say, oh, well, you know, she's just doing something I'd never do. Believe it or not, I could take this right now and I could tighten this right up and make this look very realistic if I chose to. That's never far from my where I'm working. I can do that. Now, one of the things I like to do is I like to scratch back. So I'll come into an area, let's say up here, and I'll scratch back to some of the light underneath to add some texture to the surface. I really like the dark mass on this side of the painting here. And then it's sort of paired with it here. more medium on here. So then just step back. How does it relate to this? Okay, I need to have this area here needs a little bit more value right in here. So I'm just gonna. Now I'm just again working with transparent color. So you can see all the drawing. I haven't obliterated anything yet. Everything is still very, very present and in view of the surface here. So that's going like that. Now, I do like to put, so I'm going to come in here with some of this. Where's my transparent yellow oxide? There it is. Hey, this is a little bit of transparent yellow oxide. I'm just going to thin it down with a little bit of medium again. And I'm going to bring this in here. So we'll start building some of these other colors in here with the transparent layer. I'm not putting them in opaque yet. Nothing here is opaque. I'm just coming in here and building. A lot of my lights will come back as opaques, as they do in most paintings. In your traditional paintings, all the lights were put in later as a light. Again, I'll come in here and I'll scratch into a wet surface to maybe bring a few lines. This will represent some of the grass forms without overstating them. I'll put those in there. So to step back and take a look and see what you think, how it's coming along. Okay. Am I still pinned for everybody?
I believe so.
Good, okay. Okay, so starting to develop now. Now I have to start getting a little bit more specific and thinking about things. So off in the distance here, where it's a bit cooler, I'm going to rely on my transparent yellow oxide with a little bit of Payne's gray. I'm not going to get myself out a tube of green because I don't need to.
Lynn is asking if you're thinning your paint with just a gel medium or a mixture of different clear mixture.
Yeah, it's just gel medium.
Okay,
it's just this stuff here, the stuff that I made up to put underneath. So I'm actually getting a little bit of the violet mixed in with everything, which is okay. I don't mind that. And sometimes I'll put stuff on and I'll take a rag. And push that back. And again, push a little bit of it out, make it a little bit more subtle. It doesn't have to be solid. Okay. Okay. So I'm working very general to specific, and this is how I normally work. So I start with my darker shapes, my bigger shapes, and I'll work up to my lighter shapes, my more specific shapes. So it's a way of looking at the image. So now I'm going to get in maybe a littler brush. I'm going to get my favorite nasty brush. So this is, I buy these at Lee Valley Tool. They're very cheap hog bristle brushes. They're not particularly fine to work with. They're kind of rude brushes, but they make great marks when you're working. So I'm going to come in here. So I could actually, if I scratch, I can bring up the color of that orange. So now I'm going to come in with some, so Cad Red Light and yellow. I'm going to make a nice bright color here. Add just a little bit. It's almost like my mother color. Is just a little bit of violet. Just going to neutralize that down just a touch. Don't want to have it too bright too fast. So we'll just put a little bit of that. And then I'm going to add a touch of white. Now this is going to cool it down, right? This is going to make it a cool. It's going to make it more sort of the color that's in there. It's going to soften that up. So when I put this on, when I start putting this on, I am going to obliterate. I'm going to cover up areas that I've created. So it's usually a process for me of putting it on and then moving it around with some sort of tool. In this case, usually I have like 5 of these going at once. My catalyst. And like I say, I start working up to my brightest. So this isn't my brightest color, but it's certainly heading that way. This is even brighter here. We're just, and I'll use this tool. This is a real rough and ready brush, so I'll let it make some sort of random marks in here. And just change this up a little bit. Just a touch of yellow to this. I want this little patch. There's quite a lot of light right in here, so we're gonna focus on that. Now, if I want a random pattern, and I do, I'm just going to scratch a little bit. I want some random pattern in here. Sometimes I'll take a piece of paper and I'll paint random patterns on here or spritz them on. So when I'm doing little spritzy things, I'll take my little scrubby brush here, this little guy who I've cut down. It's just one of those really nasty little brushes, but I've cut it down and I'll make a color. So I'm going to make this color and I'm just going to lay this flat. So I'm going to use my finger and I'm spraying onto here. So I've created this sort of pattern of paint, okay? Just a sort of a random pattern. And I'll put it into my surface like this. To create this randomness of activity here. And it's kind of fun to do. So, and if you've got shapes, like there's a few of these that are just a little bit too big, while it's still damp, just go in and soften those up so that you don't get mortified by them. And sometimes I'll even take my hand and move things around with the side of my hand. That is a nice way of softening up those shapes too. So that's created some of this sort of randomness that's in there. I'm not going to paint that randomness. That's way too much randomness for me, but I could certainly create some energy this way. Now I'm just going to make just, let's see. There's a really light energy in here. Put this on. Like that energy through there. And again, some of these random marks. So some are put on with other tools other than just a brush. Some of them I'll put on with a tool, with a paintbrush. And then I might go in and carve into them and break that surface up. I'm all about torturing paint. Any questions? Or are you sitting there on the other side of the screen going, oh my God?
I saw Kylie send a little heart up when you transferred your splatter onto the, I think that was something new for her.
I was wondering if you paint on canvas paper instead of watercolor paper.
You can? Yeah, absolutely. And I have. Only I don't have any decent sized canvas paper here. Like I got some little canvas paper, but I thought it's easier to do a little bit bigger demo than a really tiny one. So that's why I chose this. And this is another way of getting surface texture on. I'm going to do it, I'll do it over here in the corner, is put some color on top of an area that you've painted. So I've given that quite a bit of attention there. Let's see.
So are you painting vertically just because this is a demo, or is this your normal way of painting?
I paint vertically in my studio downstairs too. I like it.
And are you mixing your colors vertically as well?
Yeah.
Even when you're
I'm dabbing in my brush and then pulling them up here and doing it. Yes.
And that's how you work normally.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
is there a particular reason for that?
I like having it right here, you know. It's
Okay.
almost like I can look at it a little bit better. I can have a more balanced view of it.
Mhm.
Now I'm just going to take my little scrubby brush again. And
Ben's asking, what size board do you put all your papers, reference, and your actual painting on?
oh, this guy here, I have no idea what size this is. I've had this in my teaching studio for so long. I'm not sure what this is. It's big. It's a
Okay.
big, this is a big sheet. I mean, it's probably ooh, can't even guess. Let's see. Lengthwise, it's 24 by 24. This is probably 36 by 48. I think that's basically what it is. 36 deep and 48 wide.
Yeah.
But it's a good size.
Mhm.
Gets the job done. So it's just like I say, there's a lot of scratching back. I'll put an area down. I'll pull color back from that area. I work with a limited palette when I'm building a painting. I don't use the whole spectrum of color. It's one side of the color wheel. Okay, one side of the color wheel is what I'm focused on. And sometimes it's nice just to make a shape and just let a shape be crazy. So I'll sometimes have just a really bright color just along the edge of my painting. much like Brian Rutenberg does. Like I'll pick out a spot and just lay down some of this really nice sort of sage green, maybe scratch back into it just to get a little bit of texture happening. And then, it's really nice if you can sort of step back and take a look at it from a distance. It's hard to do when you're jammed up here, but again, I'm really trying not hard to paint specifics. I'm trying to just react to this surface and try to create some of that energy that I see in this surface. Sometimes it's nice to come back in with a drawing tool, come in and get back into this this is on paper. So if it's going to go anywhere, it's going to go behind glass, no doubt. So I can come in here and draw back in with one of my woodies here, maybe start picking up some of these colors. I could also pick up these colors with paint, of course, with a tinier brush. Like this here, I can just starting to find some of the brights in here, some of the other colors. Now there is definitely a kind of pinkier red happening in here too. Like it's not just an orangey red. There's a nice salmon color happening in here. So let's find some of those. So again, I've got this really rough brush. This isn't a nice brush at all. It's been rather abused. It was a nice brush at one time, but it's not anymore. So again, this is my attempt to make marks that suggest all this leaves and bracken and surface without actually getting down to business and painting everyone separately, because I don't want to do that. And I do love this color. That's color's amazing. Now I'm avoiding the big issue, which is that which is that there. So I think I'm going to do some more stamping for that. Every time I paint this, I've done this image, like I said, really big. And and I've done one actually on paper once before that was quite interesting. So I'm just going to take some, where is it? Where is it? No, I don't want that. I want my Artist Loft black. I think that's right here. No, that's blue, but here's black. Okay, I'm just gonna come in here and maybe redefine some lines. Does anybody follow Brian Rutenberg on YouTube?
Hearing from anybody. Cecile's asking, are you using a tool right now or just a piece of
I'm using a wax kind of crayon here.
Okay.
So this is a wax crayon, which if I wet or if I rub will. I want some of that texture in here. So this is a really dark purple here. And just, I love that energy of this particular violet. It's very powerful. There's quite a little spot of it right down in here.
Lynn's asking, what is the brand name of the wax crayons that can be used dry or wet?
They're Artist Loft.
Oh, okay, so just Michael's.
Just Michael's, yeah. They're a little more expensive. I believe they're $21 for a box. But if you get them when they got buy two things, get one for 50% off, you can get a twofer. That's what I usually do. They love me. They're always asking for my opinion because I buy so much damn stuff at Michael's. Being in Red Deer, we don't have a more sophisticated store. I have to go to Calgary, which I do to my friend who owns an art store in Calgary, and I'll go down there for certain things, but it is quite amazing how well stocked they are now. At one time they weren't, but they brought in a lot of products. And for a little city like Red Deer, it's kind of, for us artists, it's the only place in town, except for Walmart, and I won't set foot in Walmart. So I'm starting to branch out. I've been working a lot in the warm colors. Now I'm going to add a little bit of these greens. I had them in there quite cool, but I've decided that I think I need to have a little bit of the warmth also. And there's one spot right in there. So I'm not, it's just a little Payne's gray I've added to this. I'm just going with that kind of. So my biggest, what would you call it? The thing I have a tendency to do is I keep breaking things down. And sometimes I get too much detail happening in here. Believe it or not, you'd think from looking at this, like, how is that possible? But I do have a tendency to get too much information. Instead of leaving some shapes just nice and broad, I'll keep breaking this down till it's done.
Bernard's wondering if you usually do a painting in one sitting, or do you come back to it the next day or somewhere down the road?
That's a good question. I will, maybe this size, I will get it done in a day, but that doesn't mean it's ready to go anywhere. It then has to sit and mature, and it might get thrown in the bin yet, There's no, I've got to bring the light in. The one problem with acrylic, of course, is it always dries a little darker than you had anticipated. And what you thought was a nice light color, all of a sudden is sort of a dull color. So I'm always fighting that with acrylic. So I'm just going to come in here and pull this down. Maybe even let that sort of sit as a distant tree there. And then I'm going to bring this right into here. So I'm going to make a, come right in here. And push this. So again, it's that layering process. I never know when to say never. I just keep working it till I feel satisfied that I've got the layers that I need. If I need to, sometimes if it's a hard edge, I'm just taking a little bit of that matte medium and I'm just softening that edge with a bit of matte medium so it's not hard. Okay. Okay, now I'm going to have to deal with this. This tree here is really kind of one of the things that's so beautiful about this picture is this lovely branch that sort of sprays over the surface. And I really like that. So yeah, come back and do that. Okay. So how do I apply the paint? Well, how do I make that be without being too specific? Like, what shape do I want to put in here? Okay. So I think I'm going to resort to a stamping process again, but I'm not going to spray it on this time. This time I'm going to paint a some tree forms, and I have to do this relatively quickly because I don't want this to dry. So yeah, I want that kind of color. So I'm just going to just make some shapes on here. As they go out to the edge, maybe a little bit lighter. So let's see. Let's see if we can get this. I'm going to put this over here like this. We're going to put this down just to see how that works. Maybe the kind of the way I wanted it to be. Maybe not as strong as I wanted it to be, but certainly okay. So and I'm just going to get a little thicker in here. So I mean, there might be another 10 layers of obliteration before I'm actually happy with this. And the whole time I'm trying not to be super prescriptive. I'm trying to be abstract this so that it's more about the color, the textures, stuff that's happening on that surface. It's so easy to get caught up in painting things. I still do. Of course I do. I can't help it. It's in my nature to get caught up in painting things.
Kylie's wondering, what do you look for to know that your painting is done?
I never know when a painting is done. I'm terrible. I am terrible. I will be the first to admit that. The best thing to do is to walk away from it and give it some time and then come back later and go, oh, yeah, you need this here or you need that there. But I let the painting have some of that, give me some of that information. I don't try to impose my will completely on the painting. If that makes any sense to you. I like Louis Noble says in his work, you know, he doesn't want to ramrod the painting. He wants the painting to have its own life too. So he doesn't have any, when he talks about letting a painting develop and don't have any preconceived ideas about how you want it to look when it's finished. Just let it sort of unfold for you. It's a scary proposition though, because there is no, you don't have the same, what's the word? It's a lack of control that you have to allow to happen. in the whole painting process. And it's sort of hard to do, to let that go, to let that control go. So again, I can't really get back from this because there's my little thing in front of it, right in front of it. You guys are in front of it, and I can't get to the side anymore. So I'm sort of looking at this from a certain angle that is a little difficult. So I need a big boo-boo. You'll just have to forgive me. Okay, I think I'll get a brush here. Getting some round brushes, a couple of round brushes. I work with a lot of flats. I like flat brushes, but I do get my rounds out near the end.
Kylie also commented that you are also sharing control of the image with the viewer, which takes a lot of courage.
Yeah, that's true. I am sharing control of the image with the viewer. So, and I've always wanted the viewer to create their own. I always talk about paintings that are super prescriptive, like, you know, you're telling everybody exactly what's going on. Detail paintings, that's like a novel. That's like writing a novel. And it describing everything to the viewer so that there's nothing left to the imagination. I think of abstracted artwork more like poetry. You're giving the viewer an armature in which to navigate the painting, but you're not giving them absolutes as far as how they interpret it. Okay, so they can create their own kind of feelings towards something.
Cecile was asking if your colors are still mixed with medium or are they just straight paint now?
This is pretty well straight paint right here because I'm in with my opaques.
Mm-hmm.
So this is straight paint right in here.
So you're using medium kind of more as your base layer with the paint, and then as you get more opaque, it becomes just more paint.
More paint, yeah. To get these nice transparent layers, I have to use the medium. But once I'm working with just opacity, then I don't have to rely so heavily on that. So now I'm doing some negative space painting. And with my lights, so I always work from dark to light. I always get my darks in first, and then my lights start arriving about this point in the whole process. Now, do I need these grasses? I don't know if they're really necessary for the overall painting. So I'm looking like I'm trying to create some of that light in here. And I want to soften that edge. So to soften edges, I use a little bit of matte medium, help soften. And in the I'm going to bring some of this real intense. This is again my Payne's gray mixed. I'm going to bring a bit of it into in around some of that drawing. And I think I need some down in here. Sometimes just some dry brushing. Just on the surface. Kind of like what's going on there. That's a little much down there. So it's all these little micro decisions about color, about mark. Maybe make some of these a little bit more aggressive. So there's, by this point, there's just like a ton of layers, right? I'm just going to come in with just a little softer. Where's my purple? There it is. Warm it up a little. I like this color. I'm going to bring this in here just a little bit brighter. Again, scratching back, retaining some of this. But I could very well be getting too picky now, guys, but the nice thing is the process is never the same. Every time you do this, because you're not being prescriptive, you're being more descriptive, you have a little different experience every time. And using colors that are a little bit out there, like these are pretty intense colors for a scene, but I see them. I actually see all these colors in here. Okay, now I have to decide where is that focal point? Where's some of this left over? I think I probably want my attention right up in here. So I'm just going to add a little bit more of this over in here. So again, negative space painting around areas. Leave some of this mark making, lose an edge.
Ted's asking how you would describe your overall style, abstract, impressionistic, or a combination?
I think it's really a combination.
Mhm.
Some of my images are actually quite abstract, but sometimes there is a certain impressionism to them too. Each one is different. Like I say, it really depends on the painting, what it becomes. So I'm going to just see if I can.
So had you decided your focal point before you started the painting, or you're deciding it as you go where you want it to be?
Well, I always had a feeling it would be this shape here, right? That
Okay.
was always my kind of my idea where it would be. The shape here has to go. Can't have two cooks in the kitchen. Okay. And let's just make one more bit of bright. It's so difficult. You want your red to be lighter, but then you add white and it makes it too. So I'm making the same color again. Good job, Susan. Hmm. So there's definitely a dominance of the oranges and orange kind of um, uh, base colors. The greens, the gray greens, those kind of colors are secondary to that. I should probably get a little bit more blue, but I'm not using blue per se, but I can use my Payne's gray, and it can double as my green. I mean, my blue. And I quite often use Payne's gray as my blue. I rather like it. This is the Nova Color, which I haven't ordered in a while because it's in the States and it's just gotten so expensive to try to bring stuff over the border. You know what I mean? They're just awful. Getting too picky, guys. Try to make this last. Okay, well, let's see. How it looks when you take the border and see what it looks like. All that.
It always makes such a huge difference.
Yeah, when you see it without the mucky edge. Here we go. I've definitely stepped into the Impressionism ring, that is for sure. There's little pieces of it that's very abstract, but overall, I would say that I'm giving off a definite impressionistic vibe, which isn't a bad thing.
It's gorgeous.
But this is what I mean about being able to tighten this right up, right? I could make this super real with just enough time and patience, which is not my usual self.
But it is amazing how far you've come in less than an hour.
Yeah, it's all today during class that I've got running right now. I did a 15-minute pastel at the end of class.
Wow.
And it didn't turn out too bad. Just a few little marks.
And I'm not too sure what you mean by can we see it? Because I think we can. Are you wanting to see like, I'm not sure what you mean. The pastel, I'm sorry.
Oh, the pastel, sure. This is now, you got to take it in that this was just a 15-minute pastel. I was just showing some underpainting techniques at the end of class, and I have people in the class that are also pastel artists. So here's a little 15-minute pastel. This was the image we were working with today. So here's the little 15-minute pastel of the dry island buffalo jump.
Wow. That's something.
Beautiful, yeah. It's beautiful.
And this is we were working with collage today, reconstructing paintings, which is something I like to do with my loose drawings that I paint with. So this is a reconstructed image. And it was from this here. So this image here, I did a very, very loose painting. Then I took a little piece of it out of the bigger image, and then I've collaged back into it. It's a great way, like I could do that with this piece and it would turn it abstract immediately because I would be taking it out of context, or I'd taken pieces of it. Yeah, so.
Lucy's wondering if we can see your painting without the top.
Oh, sure. Let me just get this off here.
So was your class today on Zoom or was that live?
No, it was a Zoom class for Winslow Art Center.
This
I'm
is
doing a 3-day of mixed media. So today we were doing there we go.
Wow.
There we go.
There you go, Lucy. Wow. So what will you do with this now? Does it become a piece that you will try to sell at some point, or that remains to be seen?
I might crop it and put it into one of the frames that I have here. I'll have to live with it for a little bit and have a better relationship. Right now we're a bit rocky.
Okay.
But I will, just keep it and think about how I'd like to change it, what I'd do to it. I'm gonna get rid. I don't like this bright green spot. There's a little too much, just there. Although it is there, but yeah, I'll just have to live with it for a little while. Certainly, everything I do does not end up getting framed by any stretch. You can see the behind me here. I mean, this is the wall of, pastels and paintings. These are reconstructions too. And I just I've got stuff laying around. I mean, I've got stuff everywhere, paintings just laying around. And then things that are more abstracted. Something like this that's very abstracted. Okay. I like the colors in this one a lot. So I've kept it around. Even do a little bit of oil once in a while, but rarely, because when I do oil, it ends up everywhere. And I don't like it because it ends up everywhere. So, yeah. So, any other questions here? I wish I could bring it closer to you, I guess. What I could do is so sort of some of the, I don't know if you can see the mark making any clearer up close.
Yeah.
But and my suggestion is explore the internet, find other artists that you really enjoy. Learn to work with your paints both transparently and opaquely. Don't always rely on them in an opaque manner. Start your paintings out with those lovely transparent colors that we started with. and build them and work with them that way. And you'll find that your paintings will have a little bit more luminosity and they don't tighten up quite as quickly. Try to keep some of your edges lost. Some of the problems with working with acrylic is you have a tendency to do nothing but hard edges. And that's why I use things like rags. I use things like my catalyst to pull paint, because then I can lose edges here and there and make it a little bit more mysterious and a little bit more interesting. So,
Wow.
anyway.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much for this demo. It was awesome. There's tons of compliments in the chat. So I guess there's no more questions at this time. So thank you for doing this. And I have to thank the City of Ottawa, who gives us a grant each year that allows us to have speakers such as yourself in. And thank you to Denise for organizing this for all of us. And I just wanted to mention that, why is it technology doesn't work? I just wanted to remind everybody that our April speaker will be live, and it'll be Steve Kane, who just won the Award of Excellence at the Arteast Award exhibition for his photograph. And he'll be speaking on photographing artwork for submission with a variety of different devices, artwork types, lighting, file preparation, etc. So, yep, that's for everybody for next month in April. And thank you so much again. This was awesome, even for me as a watercolorist. Every time I come to a session like this, it's wow, how can I make that work for my art? And lots
Well,
to think about.
the drawing tools you certainly could incorporate into the watercolor. I mean, that's the first thing I ever taught. I started teaching watercolor when I was still in art college, and I taught watercolor for 24 years, and that's all I taught was watercolor. But then I sort of drifted away and started working with other mediums, only because I wanted to work big, and I wanted to do 3 foot by 4 foot canvases, and that's difficult to do with watercolor. So I kind of drifted away from watercolor, but I certainly had a lot of fun with it for many, many years and explored watercolor too. I went through my phase where I did just nothing but layers of pure color, so that I was optically mixing the surface. And it was sort of after I got on to, what's his name? Thomas Aquinas Daly. I don't know if you know that painter. Look up Daly, Daily, Thomas Aquinas Daly. Beautiful watercolors, very quiet paintings, but he does it by one layer of yellow, one layer of red, one layer of blue, one layer of yellow, one layer in different amounts. And in certain areas you stop this point, and in certain areas you stop at that point, and you build the painting like this. And it's a book called Painting Nature's Quiet Places. And he was, I don't know if I've got it up here. I don't have it up here. But it's called Painting Nature's Quiet Places. And it was, here. I don't think you can get this book anymore. I think it's rather expensive. But it's called Paintings Nature's Quiet Places. And all these paintings that he does are just layers and layers of color. And they're absolutely beautiful. Like, these are just very simple. He's a simple watercolorist. I mean, these guys here, but it's just layers of color. So I went through that. And then I went through my stage where I worked on a paper that actually resisted watercolor, so that it's all about picking it up, you know. So he does a lot of, he's a hunter and a fisher. So he does a lot of these very interesting little still lives of just one fish. But if you see the book, you can't probably tell online, but the surfaces are absolutely, the subtlety of them is really amazing.
I'll definitely have to look him up and see.
Yeah.
Wow.
Thomas Aquinas Daly, Painting Nature's Quiet Places.
Okay, thank you.
So I did. I spent a lot of time, and of course, Joseph Zabovich. I mean, that guy is like the most amazing painter. I don't know if you know Joseph Zabovich.
Mm.
The other, if for a watercolorist, I think this book is you got to have this book. It's called Mastering Atmosphere and Mood in Watercolor.
Oh, yes.
And he talks about the two sides of the clock. There's the right side is the pigment consistency from runny wash to stick like glue, and the left side is the time, how wet the paper is. And he's well, this guy knows how to paint watercolor. You know, he's
Wow.
he's quite amazing. He's very realistic,
Mhm.
but his paintings are brilliant. And this book is just a wealth of information.
Wow.
He lives in Australia. So
Beautiful.
there's a wonderful, go on YouTube, and it's under Color My World, which is Stevenson Paints, Color My World. And they do videos of different artists. And he has one of Joseph Zabovich painting one of his iconic street scenes. He does these street scenes all over the world, but he's very good at his street scenes in his hometown of Sydney or whatever. And you see it from beginning to end, and it's brilliant how he paints. So this is a great book as far as watercolor is concerned.
All right. Thank you for the references.
Okay.
If there's no more questions, thank you again. And I hope to see our members next month at our first live presentation.
Okay, guys.
Have a good night, everybody.
So much.
Good night.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.